Let's go over how to customize the appearance of Bootstrap by editing the SAS files that come with it. In order to do this, you're going to have node.js installed. Node uses npm or Node Package Manager and installs with this. If we go to Bootstrap or getsbootstrap.com, it tells us we can download the source files. And what I'm going to do is use npm to set this up because it's the easiest way to get things set up where you can edit the SCSS files as you need to. As a reminder, this is what we have looked at in the past for just kind of logic how we're going to do this. Okay, so let me close all these links. To get this started, I need some sort of website, folder, and content, and I've got it here. And I'm going to have to run a few things in the terminal. And specifically, the terminal has to run inside this website folder. Now, the easiest way to get a terminal instance open inside this folder is to drag the folder itself down to the terminal icon, and you'll see that the name of the folder is here. And what I want to do is initialize this folder using npm, which will allow us to use npm to install other things. So npm init or initialize. Again, I'm in my project folder here. If you get an error, you probably need to install Node. Now it's going to give me a whole bunch of questions. Package name. Now I'm just going to do things as generically as possible. Sure, website, version 1. Description, test of editing Bootstrap styles. Entry point will be index.js, sure. Test command, I'm going to skip over. Git repository, I'm not setting up for this. Keywords, I don't have to worry about. Author is me, but I'm just going to skip that for now, and I'm not going to enter a license. Is this okay? Yes. Obviously, I would want to edit those things somewhat. What did we just do? By running npm init and answering all those questions, we get a package.json in our folder. Just to be clear, these other files are already here. Here's my package.json, and if I look at it, it's JSON, which we should recognize, and it's just a series of key and value pairs, most of which are blank. I could always go in and edit that. Okay, so now that we have initialized this, let me close this other window, initialize this project using npm, we can now run a useful command such as npm install Bootstrap. Hopefully you won't run into any errors there. I got a couple of warnings, but you can see it should have installed. And if I again take a look in here, now I have this folder called Node Modules. Inside that is Bootstrap. Inside that is SCSS, and then here's all the code they've got written. Now all of these files, if I'm not mistaken, these ones that start with dashes, end up getting imported by this file right here, bootstrap.css, which is pretty big. So it has an @import command at the beginning. So how do we customize the values in that in order to get it to work? Well, just to be clear, there's a lot of different ways of doing that, but I'm going to try to do it in the most straightforward way that I can using the examples that they have on the Bootstrap website. So the first thing I want to do is add a couple of files to my project over here. I'm going to use terminal to do that, the touch command, and I'm going to say touch custom.scss. That is the file where I'm going to write my own custom style code. And I'm also going to say touch custom.css, so normal CSS file. What we need to do is set up our CSS file to watch our SCSS file. So sas-watch, and what we do is say the name of our SCSS file, custom.scss, and then a colon, custom.css, the name of the CSS file that's going to write to. SAS is watching for changes, press Control-C to stop. Okay. So what's going on here? Here's our CSS file. It's going to be blank right now. Here's our SCSS file, and what we're going to do is edit that to get it to, first of all, pull in all the content from Bootstrap, and then second of all, to change some of the values. So here is my custom.scss, and I'm going to hit return a few times and write @import. So as a reminder, this is a way that we can import other SCSS rules. And what I'm going to write is @import URL, parentheses, quotes, and actually, not URL, I'm not grabbing @import and then just quotes. And what I want to do is direct it to our folder that has the Bootstrap SCSS. So node module /bootstrap /SCSS/bootstrap. I'm going to put a semicolon after that. Now let me clarify what we are importing. Here is the file that I'm editing. What I'm saying is import from node modules, Bootstrap, SCSS, and then all the way down here, Bootstrap. So we're importing the entire Bootstrap project. We're importing what we need from Bootstrap. Let's edit it. There are a few default values that we can adjust, and they have a strange way of being written. So body background, I'll say teal, just so we can see it, and body color, and that's the color of your text, AAEECC. So we can use words, hex, we can use RGBA. So these are our body colors, and then we can also declare theme colors. Now this has to do with, like, you know, button primary, button secondary, stuff like that. So what we can do is say primary. So we're going to overwrite what, like, primary would be, and let's say RGB 2551550. I don't recommend using 3 different color scales, but I'm trying to demonstrate that we can. So I'm going to change primary and danger. Some random value there. And those are a group, and you can see that they're grouped together here. I'm getting all of this code from the website, the Bootstrap website. And so what this is going to do is, well, let's check it out. Let me save. If we switch to terminal, oh, it looks like I had a typo. Compiled so that worked. That worked, and then it said error expected. Huh. Oh, it looks like it has a problem with the semicolon that I plugged in here. So, excuse me, so I'm going to go back here. It's not able to read this because of the semicolon. So I'm going to cut that out, hit save, and go back. And we want to make sure that the last line says compiled. Okay, so what has happened? Well, if we go to our style sheet, that's not it. That's just style.css. It's custom.css. It has written all of this stuff. How did it write all this stuff? Well, remember, we are importing. So it's importing all of the standard CSS from Bootstrap. That said, if we preview our page, let's see what happens. I believe this is my folder for it. So let me double click index.html. No, you know what? This is the wrong. This is it. And all I'm getting is hello world. It's not doing anything. So what's going wrong? Well, if I'm not mistaken, in our HTML page, oh, here it is. This is linking to stylesheet.css. We have a stylesheet.css that has a couple of rules, but it really needs to link to this custom.css. Where would we link that? Well, I would do it probably right beforehand. So our custom Bootstrap rules come first. So this would be custom.css. And then after that, if we wanted to add any additional rules, I could do it in our own style sheet. Let me go back and refresh. Okay, so now it's listening to us. This is the Bootstrap font, and it's got teal. So all we've written in here is hello world, right? You might remember that Bootstrap likes some div class equals container or container fluid. Let me close that. And so if we wanted to set up, let me get rid of hello world. Let's see if we can set up like a row system. Div class equals row. Oops. Keep doing that. At least I'm consistent. Okay, row, and I'll close that. And then I could say div class equals call medium 2, how about? And I'll put a 2 in there. So that'll be one column, and I'll say div class equals call medium 4. Let me close that. Let's see, I think Bootstrap uses a base 12 grid, which would mean 442 is not enough. So maybe it's a base 10 grid. I don't know, let's find out. So I'm going to refresh here, and I can see my 244, and it looks weird, right? In this row, I'm going to say text center, and then go up here and refresh. Oop, that didn't seem to do anything. Text center. Let me try. Well, it's in our row. Maybe we could plug it in. Ooh, not that. Text center. I'm trying to obviously center the text in each one of these little blocks. Maybe they're already centered. Let's say for these, let's say border. Hit save, and that should give us a default border. Okay, so we can see that one. Okay, and if I refresh, okay, so we can see that this is how this is laying out. It is centering our text. If I change this to container-fluid and save, we can refresh and we'll see it's expanding a little bit more. Well, it does seem to reach a maximum point here, right, where it's stopping. I'm not entirely sure where that's coming from. Div, container fluid, I'll get rid of this text center. Doesn't, well, I mean, it is doing something, but this one should do it for us. Well, I wonder if that has something to do with our style sheet. I don't see any content there that would do it. I guess we do have some rules in the body. Well, let's get back to customizing this. So how do we keep going with our SCSS? The other thing I thought of is, what if we wanted to use a different font? Like if we wanted to use the Google font Oswald. Well, here's Oswald, and you know, we could select this style, and let's see, if we wanted to add it to our CSS or our SCSS, we'd have to do it as a style rule using @import. So let's do this really quickly with Oswald. Again, here's the code. Remember, you can import a font either as a link into the HTML or using this @import command, in which case you just grab this content between this opening and closing style tags and drop it into your CSS. That's the approach we're going to have to take because we're writing this stuff in SCSS. So I'm going to drop that line up here. So it's @import URL, and it's grabbing that font. All these custom rules that I'm writing above this import all the Bootstrap rules. You would think you do it in the other direction, but you don't. You declare it this way, and these will overwrite the values. And these are presets already written into Bootstrap, so that's what we're overwriting. And that's why I thought it would be helpful to declare this stuff really clearly. Similarly, if we wanted to change the font, the best way to do it, and we could put an asterisk here and say change everything, but what we want to do is say every instance of a sans serif font, which is the default for Bootstrap. Let's say, oops, didn't mean to do that. I want it to be Oswald. And then, of course, we'll need a fallback. So I'll say Helvetica, and then just a general sans serif. Okay, and I'm going to save that. And if we go back and refresh, our 4s have changed their fonts. So now they're using a custom font. So at this point, you know, this is really just to get set up and do these primary things. If you wanted to get more advanced and adjust, for instance, the width of the grid and all that kind of, oh yeah, that was the problem that I had, right? Custom, let's see, where is it, the HTML? Let me make this a 6. And now we're going the entire width, so it is a base 12 grid, sorry, I forgot that. Anyways, if we wanted to get really complicated and adjust that grid and make it a base 10 one, we could go in and edit that Sass, but that gets really complicated. So I thought for most of you, it would probably just be these fonts, and that kind of stuff. When we're done here, when I save this, if I were to minimize it and look at our folder that we're working from, what do we have to upload here using FTP? We do not have to include our SCSS file. Terminal will have generated a map that's basically translating from this to that, but all we need is this file, is custom.css. Again, what we write in SCSS gets compiled into the CSS file. That's all we need. We would need to upload this node module folder because we are importing from here. And we could always move that around, but it could get a little bit funky. Last thing to note is our terminal is still reading from our custom.scss to write. So I'm going to do, let's see if I can, I'm trying to find a command to quit this. So I did Command Z, my third try, and that seemed to stop that. So it's no longer compiling, and I can close the terminal. And again, everything that I wrote should be in this CSS file now. So if we go, if we were to go to Atom and take a look at it, we'd see it's got all the Bootstrap CSS and then our own. So that's the very basics of getting set up to customize a Bootstrap install.